And could I ask you, first of all, Madame Goulard, if you could just explain to us what this mechanism is and how you believe it might serve the interests of European taxpayers and European citizens as a whole.
The heads of states and government have announced they would create a banking union. And nobody knows what a banking union is. It is not a kind of a new marriage for banks. It is they have discovered, and this is right, that there is a link between the sovereign debt crisis and the soundness of the banking system. So the goal is to make our banks more stable and sound. The first step was to give the ECB for the Eurozone the supervision of the banks, the direct supervision of the banks. This was a huge step, not easy, and 3-4 years ago everybody was refusing such a perspective. The second building block is that we can organize the failure of a bank. We can have banking resolution, as we say in the jargon, when something wrong is happening, and in order to avoid to use the money of the taxpayers. We do not use public money, which means that we have an independent body, not a body of ministers, because they always have links with their own banking systems. The reason why we are not happy with the proposal of the Council is that the ministers try to come back through the window, although they were supposed to leave the field through the door. And we are afraid that this does not make our banking system more credible for the outside world.
As I understand it, they're trying to introduce a thing that's described as intergovernmental agreements. Can you explain to me precisely what they are and how that would impact on the proposition as far as the European Parliament is concerned?
In the field where we are supposed to act, the Council is trying to take a bit of our competences and to decide outside in a separate treaty outside the framework of the EU institutions. This is something we cannot accept, not for us, not because we want to defend our rights, but because we represent the citizens of Europe.
Are you defending then the principle of democratic voice coming from the European Parliament and the collaboration with the European Commission and the Council, or the core aim of the single resolution mechanism, which is to protect European taxpayers' money?
Well, we are doing both, because of course we are working on a precise legislation. So the goal of this legislation is to strengthen the European banking sector. And of course, in this case, we need to make sure that the rule of law is respected, that democracy is respected, not only for this specific file, but also for the future. Because what if we accept what the Council is asking, and tomorrow we have another member state asking in another field, let's say migration or whatever, to also make an exception to the common rule of law. For example, let's say a bank is closed, and then the people who lost money go to the court and say, well, the legal basis of all the legislation was not the right one. Then there could be a liability. So we have to be very careful in the interest of the citizens, the taxpayers, the banking sector, and of course to make sure that the rule of law is respected at the European level.
Are the markets looking to have two of the three main components of banking union in place, namely the supervisory mechanism and the deposit guarantee scheme, and we're just waiting for the resolution mechanism? Do you think you can resolve that and put banking union in place on the EU agenda before the breakup of this term of the Parliament?
We really believe we can. So the ball is now in the court of the member states. The ministers have to move. They have to realize that we are not just playing power games, but we are concerned by the substance of this agreement, and that we want to defend democracy, which is our job.